Today's Sunday project is going to involve changing the oil on our Honda generator. We use this generator a lot when we're dry camping, and usually in the winter time, November, December, January. And I like to change the oil once a year. It's probably more than I need to do, but I just want to make sure the generator runs well and keeps running. Here's the supplies and equipment you're going to need to do this. Instruction manual, that always helps. This is my little logbook that I keep that shows when I ran the generator, how long I ran it, just so I can keep track of how many hours we're putting on this thing. You'll need oil. This generator only takes 14 ounces of oil, so that's much more than I'm going to need. I do have a spark plug there. I changed the spark plug last time, so I don't think I'm going to need to change the spark plug this time, but I'm going to check it anyway. Rubber gloves. I put in fuel treatment after I do the changing of the oil, just because I do run the generator once a month to keep it going. I don't want anything to get mucked up in there, so I do run it once a month for about 5 to 10 minutes. But I think it's good to put the fuel treatment in because we're not going to run the generator for a long time until this coming winter. I also have a couple of disposable pans here that I will drain the oil into, and that way it doesn't make as much of a mess as if I drained it into an oil pan that I would use again and again and again. Honda's owner manual has really good instructions for changing the oil and doing anything else you need to do. I'm going to check the air filters while I'm doing this. Probably will clean them too because it was really windy and dusty at Quartzsite this year. But other than the oil and the air filters, I don't think I'm going to need to do anything else. I don't think I'm going to need to replace the spark plug, but I will check it anyway. I've got the generator running because you're supposed to change the oil when it's warm, so to make sure you drain all the oil out. So I'm going to warm it up a little bit before I start. Okay, the first step is to take off the maintenance cover. This is the maintenance cover. That's the screw. It just comes out with a screwdriver. Okay, with the maintenance cover off, you can see it is really dusty in there. So this is where the air filter is. So I'm going to take it off and check it. This is the oil fill spout. It's also where you drain the oil, as shown in the owner's manual. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm probably going to use my air blower and blow some of this dust out of here too, because it's quite dusty in there. Okay, we're going to pull the oil cap out. Got a lot of threads on it. There we go. Okay, now here it comes. So we want to get it into the pan. I wish there was a neater way to do it. There isn't. And we may have to stop here and fill another pan. So we'll stop the video for a second. So we're going to go again. It only takes 14 ounces, but evidently these pans aren't as big as I thought they were. There we go. Now we're coming to the end. I'm glad I warmed it up a little bit so that the oil comes out smoothly. I'm not going to worry about getting every last drop out of this thing, but I will go like this until it stops running. Drip, 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 drip. Okay. There we go. It is a somewhat messy job, so, kind of prepare ahead for that. But now we have the oil out. Here's how I dispose of the oil, and it's a very small amount, so I don't worry about environmental, ecological issues, so don't get mad at me, but here's what I do. So we've got about 14 ounces of oil between those two pans. I get a bucket, I put a trash bag in it, I put sand or kitty litter in there. I'm going to put those pans in there. I'm going to tie it up, and I'm going to put it in a second trash bag, and I'm going to dump it in our trash dumpster. That's what I'm going to do to get rid of the oil. I don't think 14 ounces of oil is going to make any difference in anybody's world, and it's also going to be completely absorbed by the sand. In this case, I'm using sand today, not kitty litter. So I don't see this as a problem. Please don't get mad at me. I would never change the oil on a vehicle and dispose of it this way, because that would be way too much. But I think 14 ounces of oil is about the amount of oil that you have in your fryer in the kitchen. So I don't think it's a big deal. Okay, so I've put the oil cap back on. I'm not going to put in new oil right now. I'm going to blow this out with my air blower and get some of that dust out of there before I do anything else. So here we go. I think I'll go ahead and do the air filter clean out now, because I want to get that done, and then I'll go back and do the oil last. So we're going to do the air filter clean out. This is also something that's explained really well in the booklet under servicing your generator. There's actually an outer filter and an inner filter, and I'm going to take care of both of those. Okay, so here's our oil filter cover. I've taken it off. There's your outer filter and your inner filter. They look pretty good. Despite the dust that was blowing around while we were out there this year, they look pretty good. So I'm just going to take them out and wipe them off and put them back in. The big cleaning, if you need to do it, involves taking them out. You soak them in soapy water. You let them dry, and then you coat them with oil and then put them back in. I'm just going to take them out and wipe them off. I think they'll be fine to put back in. They're not nearly as dirty as the conditions would have suggested. Which reminds me of a story. A couple of years ago, we were at Quartzsite, and I leave our generator on the ground outside the trailer. Of course, it's on rocks, and I don't normally have anything underneath it. And some guy was walking by, and oh, he really took me to task. He said, "Oh, that's going to ruin your generator. You're going to suck up all kinds of dirt in there. Your generator is not going to run. Blah 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 blah." You know, the whole the sky is falling story. And this is after we've been out there several years in a row, anyway. And I just politely listened and said, "Oh, okay, thanks. Have a nice day. Bye." You know, the guy was full of baloney. I've never had any problems with the generator not running out there. This generator is great. I love this generator. I've never had any problems. And even after the dirt blowing around and the massive winds that we had for 3 weeks while we were there this year, filter looks great. So it's not something to be overly concerned about, despite what my neighbor said. Okay, I just took the filters out. This is what they look like. It's like, no problem, no problem. I'm gonna wipe them off, put them right back in. Don't even need to wash them. They're in fine shape. Okay, I put the filters back in. I did put a light coating of the 30 weight oil on both the top and bottom filter, and put them back in. They look great, so I'm not gonna mess around. And while I'm doing everything other than what this video is supposed to be showing you, there's the spark plug down there, and that's the spark plug maintenance cover that it simply flips off of there. I'm going to take a look at the spark plug. I don't think I'm going to need to change it, but I'm going to take a look anyway since I'm in the neighborhood. Okay, took the spark plug out, cleaned it off a little bit with the steel wool. Looks good, gap is right. I can deal with that. We're going to put it right back in. Okay, so I put the spark plug back in place, put the cover back on, and I showed you the oil filters are back in place, put the cover on, tightened up with the screw. Now we're ready to put the oil in, and as soon as we put the oil in, our job here will be done. Okay, I'm ready to put the oil back in. Or not the oil back in, I'm putting clean oil in. This is clean new oil. It takes 14 ounces, so that's about what I've got here, pretty close to exactly, or as exact as I can go. Normally you shouldn't tip these generators, but you kind of have to put the oil in here. If you don't tip it, it'll come back out on you. So I am going to tip it as I put the oil in. On a normal basis, you should always try to keep these things level and upright, and don't tip them, because if you do that, then they don't want to run very well after that. Okay, we're all back together. I cleaned up the outside a little bit. In a few minutes, we're going to start it up for you. This is not our first generator. Our first generator was a Coleman. It was a 2500 watt Coleman on a little cart that rolled around. It was small. It was powerful. It was incredibly noisy. And we got complaints at campgrounds a couple of times. People, while we were running it in the middle of the day, people complaining about how noisy it was. I was like, sorry, it's Coleman. What do you want me to do? It sounded like a tractor. It was so noisy. Our second generator was a Generac, and it was very similar in size to this, similar in power. It was a nice little generator when it ran. The Generac was great when it ran. It was useless when it didn't. I had it in for service once or twice, I think, and we just continued to have problems with it. And the Generac customer service people were great. They talked to me on the phone. They tried to give me advice. We had problems. They ended up just sending me a new one. And I said, you want me to send the old one back? And they said, no, just keep it. Which was very generous of them to do, very generous at Generac. But we just decided it was too difficult to keep it going. So in October of 2020, we bought the Honda. I have had zero problems with this generator. It runs great. It's quiet. It doesn't use very much fuel. The one little addendum to this is once a month, I come out and I start this up and I run it for 5 minutes because I want to make sure that the gasoline in there isn't, getting sticky in there and causing problems. So once a month, I run it for 5 minutes, and I keep a record of all the time that we spend running this generator. Since October of 2020, we have run this generator 600 hours. I think I've changed the oil maybe 3 times. I've changed the spark plugs maybe twice. Clean the filters, and do that kind of stuff after we come back from boondock camping. And hey, it's great. I haven't changed the oil every time after every camping experience, but I'm doing it now because I think it's just a good idea. But it's a great little generator, and I strongly recommend it. It's the Honda EU2200. And there we go. I should have showed you. It started up on the very first pull. Very rarely does it not start on the first pull. Usually it doesn't when it's been very cold at night, but otherwise, pull it and go. That's all it takes. Very pleased with this unit.